Discover the shocking truth behind God's will transform your morning prayer today. In the dim light of dawn, the air crackled with anticipation, a strange hum that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to listen. The town of Millfield was known for its sleepy streets and friendly faces, yet today something felt different. A sense of foreboding lingered, a whisper of secrets just beneath the surface. People stirred in their beds, minds racing with dreams that felt all too real, visions of a world turned upside down. Was it a sign? An omen? Margaret Peterson, a weary widow with lines etched deep on her face, was the first to rise. She opened her window, inhaling a mix of fresh rain and electric tension. The clouds hung heavy, threatening to unleash their fury at any moment. Yet, instead of fear, a flicker of hope danced in her chest. Every morning, she prayed for guidance, but today felt different. The usual words tumbled from her lips, but with them came a chilling realization: what if her prayers were being heard, and something monumental was about to unfold? The old oak tree in her yard stood tall, its branches swaying like beckoning fingers, as if it held the key to her unanswered questions. Just then, a sharp cry pierced the air, snapping her from her reverie. Help! Someone help! It was Billy, the local boy known for his mischievous spirit. He stumbled down the street, wide-eyed and frantic, panic etched across his familiar face. "I saw it! I swear, I saw it!" he shouted, gasping for breath, a wild look in his eyes that sent shivers down Margaret's spine. The word it hung in the air, heavy with dread. His feverish recounting painted a vivid picture of shadows and light, of something that shouldn't exist, a glowing figure amidst the trees, an angel, perhaps? Or was it something far more sinister? The townsfolk gathered, murmuring in hushed tones, exchanging skeptical glances that revealed a mix of disbelief and fear. Margaret felt her heart race, a lump forming in her throat. Was this the revelation she had been praying for? The promise of divine intervention, or perhaps a warning? What exactly had Billy seen? Trying to wrap her head around the unfolding chaos, she could feel the collective pulse of the crowd, a shared heartbeat of curiosity and dread. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd pressed closer, the air thickened. The excitement crackled like static electricity, anticipation hanging heavy. What are we waiting for? Let us find out. Someone shouted, and it echoed in Margaret's chest like a drumbeat, adrenaline coursing through her veins. What lay beyond the shadows of the oak tree? Was it a message from God or a dark secret lurking at the edge of their reality? The pulse of fear and thrill intertwined as they all stood on the precipice of something unimaginable, ready to dive into the unknown. The crowd surged forward, a living wave drawn to the mysterious energy radiating from the old oak tree. Margaret felt the heat of bodies pressing against her, their thoughts a mixture of disbelief and a strange yearning. She was swept along, her heart pounding wildly as she fought to keep pace with the throng. What Billy had seen haunted her mind like a specter. Was it hope or despair that lay just beyond the gnarled roots of the ancient tree? "Billy, what did you see?" Someone shouted from the back, voice quavering with anxiety. I don't know." Billy stammered, glancing around, eyes wide with fear. "It was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was beautiful, but terrifying. It spoke to me." "What did it say?" clamored another voice, cutting through the growing tension. Margaret halted, struggling to catch her breath, the world around her beginning to blur. A glowing figure? What did it mean? She thought of the small moments of kindness she'd seen over the years, neighbors helping in times of need, children laughing, and then their dark undercurrent, the whispers of infidelity, the disappointment, the anger that simmered just beneath the surface of the town's friendly facade. Billy's voice cut through her thoughts, raw with an emotion she couldn't quite place. It said, "We're all being watched. That the time of reckoning is here." Gasps filled the crowd, and expressions morphed from curiosity to sheer dread. The murmurs grew, a palpable energy swirling like a brewing storm. Margaret squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, forcing herself to breathe. "Are we supposed to be afraid?" a woman's voice yelled. "Or do we fight? What do you believe, Margaret?" Someone turned to her, eyes probing, as if she held the answer. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She was just a widow, struggling with her own burdens. She couldn't become the voice of reason here, not when chaos fluttered in the air around them. But deep down, the flicker of hope gnawed at her insides. Could this be a sign? An opportunity wrapped in fear, begging for the town to unite or to tear apart? Suddenly, a crack of thunder echoed overhead, the clouds swirling ominously. It seemed to humor their mounting anxiety, ballooning the doubt that had begun to settle on her shoulders. "Let us move. We should check it out." Someone yelled as another bolt of energy shot through the air, the crowd now in full motion towards the line of trees far beyond the oak. Margaret felt the pull of the crowd dragging her along, her heart racing to the deafening thud of their feet. She stole a glance at Billy, who had become small and lost amidst the swell of bodies. In that moment, she realized she had to know, she needed to see for herself. As they neared the tree-line, there it was, shimmering through the thicket, a blinding light that made her squint. The figure emerged like a beacon against the darkened sky, flickering and pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the crowd. Gasps erupted, eyes widened, hope mingling sourly with fear, but before anyone could speak, the figure swayed, as if uncertain. The light grew brighter, blinding them momentarily, and when it finally dimmed, everyone stood frozen, breathless. What stood before them now was no longer clear. "What is happening?" Billy's voice trembled beside her. Margaret felt the impossibility of the moment stretch like elastic, filled with potential danger and revelation alike. She turned to him, desperation painting her features. Would they finally have the answers they sought, or had they unwittingly walked into something far worse? And then it happened. A whisper drifted on the wind, chilling to the bone. "You seek truth, but at what cost?" The crowd held its breath, united in fear and awe as they awaited the next revelation. The whisper hung in the air like smoke, curling around each person's ears, leaving a biting chill in its wake. Margaret's heart screamed against her ribcage, the weight of uncertainty pressing down hard. "At what cost?" she muttered under her breath, the words tasting bitter. The figure before them twisted, its form undulating like a mirage, hard to comprehend. Faces flashed with confusion, unease replacing the initial fascination. Their unity frayed, eyes darting towards one another, searching for answers. "Is it God?" a man shouted, voice cracking. "Or is it a demon?" someone else argued, their hands trembling as they pointed. Silence washed over them. The air thickened with tension. Margaret shot a quick glance at Billy, whose expression shifted from shock to outright terror. "We need to go," he whispered, panic etching into his features. But fear turned her knees to stone. The figure radiated a magnetism that tugged at something deeper within her, a yearning for clarity. "Wait. We shouldn't run," she called, her voice echoing above the gathering dread. "We came here for answers." A murmur cascaded through the crowd as a woman stepped forward, her body rigid with defiance. "What if it holds the key to our past? What if it reveals all the secrets we've buried?" The thought sent ripples of alarm through the group. Questions rose like steam from a boiling pot. With every heartbeat, the unknown loomed larger. What buried secrets? What tangled history had they collectively ignored in their day-to-day lives? The figure seemed to react, pulsing in response to their turmoil as if feeding off their doubts and fears. As it waned and swelled, Tendrils of light flickered out, illuminating the faces of the townspeople, some hopeful, others terrified. "What do you even know about the past you're afraid to address?" Margaret blurted, feeling an unexpected swell of courage. "Don't we deserve to know? Isn't that the only way forward?" Billy grabbed her wrist, his grip tight, grounding her. "Are you crazy? The past is what haunts us. Maybe it's better left buried. Or maybe," she shot back, defiance rising in her chest, "we'll never move forward if we don't face it." The uproar intensified, voices overlapping, emotions spilling over like a torrent. The weight of unspoken fears filled the air as the glowing figure resonated with their growing desperation, its movement quickening as if influenced by their turmoil. "Enough!" A deep voice boomed from the back. A tall man with a weathered face stepped into the light, his presence imposing. "We're stronger together. We must choose who we will be moving forward." His words resonated like a hammer on steel, powerful, galvanizing. The crowd quieted slightly, the collective breath held as they turned to him. "What if this is our moment?" he continued, softening his tone. "What if confronting the truth, however painful, brings us closer to who we truly are?" Margaret felt the tension shift, the fear morphing into something more potent, more charged. Would they stand together, or retreat into the shadows of their past? The voice of the crowd began to shift, a new resolve stirring in the atmosphere, but the figure pulsed violently, and a sudden flash enveloped the scene in blinding light. People cried out, squinting against the brightness, panic rippling through the gathering. Then, just as abruptly, it faded, revealing the crowd standing as if transfigured, eyes wide with realization. "What have we done?" someone shrieked. Margaret, heart racing, searched the faces around her, trembling as she tried to comprehend the shift. Had they opened a Pandora's box? Then the whisper returned, stronger this time, cutting through the shock. "The truth will surface, but who will be left standing?" A terrible silence settled around them, dread thickening the air, as Margaret's gut turned. Had they stumbled upon a terrible secret, or a chance for redemption? And what price would they all pay? Questions swirled, pushing for answers that felt dangerously close yet maddeningly far. Time was ticking, the clock of destiny winding tighter. They had awakened something. The real question was, were they ready for the revelations that would follow? Margaret's breath caught in her throat, the air heavy with anticipation and fear. Each face in the crowd bore the mark of uncertainty, emotions swirling like a tempest. Billy's grip on her wrist hadn't loosened, even as his wide eyes darted nervously. "What now?" he whispered, voice trembling. The deep voice echoed in her mind, twisting her stomach with its implications. They had stepped into something shocking, perhaps a doorway they couldn't close. The figure that had captivated their attention now loomed over them, pulsing ominously, as if waiting for them to make the next move. "Together," the man had said, but how could they if they were all gripped by their own fears? Margaret stole a glance at him. His face was rugged, lined with age and experience that commanded respect. She wondered what truths he had faced, what shadows danced behind those serious eyes. As the crowd grew eerily quiet, the glowing figure flickered again, sending out a wave of light that shimmered like ripples on a pond. The temperature dropped, bringing goosebumps to Margaret's arms. Shadows lengthened, stretching like fingers across the ground. She felt her resolve hardening. This wasn't merely a spectacle anymore, it was a pivotal moment. "Let us embrace the past together," the tall man shouted, breaking the silence like a violent wave crashing against the shore. "We can't let fear dictate our futures. We owe it to ourselves to know." His passionate rallying cry sent a jolt through the group, igniting a flicker of hope, a shared understanding that perhaps they could face down their fears, their secrets. Yet there was still an undercurrent of trepidation, and the doubt felt as palpable as the chill in the air. Margaret swallowed hard, heart racing. But at what cost? She echoed, unsure if she was speaking aloud or just to herself. Was confronting the past the ultimate solution, or a fatal mistake? Margaret, Billy's voice broke through her thoughts, a note of urgency in his tone. We can't do this. Let us get out of here. Billy, listen. She countered sharply, her voice rising above the murmurs around them. What if we miss our chance? What if this is the only opportunity to know why we're shackled to our history? His panic was palpable, but so was conviction among the others. The deep murmurs began to swell, voices blending in a complex harmony of anxiety and determination. Should they flee, or should they channel their courage into understanding? The figure swelled, shimmering brighter with their growing conviction, and the whispered words beckoned, wrapping around them like a siren-esque call. Will you face the truth? Will you shatter the chains of your past? Margaret felt a searing heat ignite within her, a mix of fear and the unyielding desire to uncover the buried truth. We must stay. We must know. She shouted again, feeling the words resonate within her as if sparked by the pulsing light. The crowd hesitated, weighing Margaret's call against their fears, glances exchanged, uncertain. She sensed the urge to flee, battling against a newfound curiosity, each heartbeat thrumming in time with the figure's glow. Then it happened. From the crowd, a distinct shout, I vote for uncovering our past. We can't hide any longer. That simple declaration flowed through the group like an electric current, igniting conversations and rallying spirits. Their reluctance began to melt as resolve formed like steel. As those words spread like wildfire, the figure pulsed twice, and the whisper sliced through the air once more, this time clearer, insistent. Then come forth to the truth. As Margaret watched, their fates began intertwining with the enigmatic being before them. What would they find as they dove deeper into the shadows of their collective history? But within that moment of awakening came a jarring tremor in the air, as if the very ground beneath them shook with the weight of their decisions. Wait! A voice cried out, piercing the tension. Margaret turned, dread spiraling in her gut. It was the tall man, now pale as the light around him flickered dangerously. We're not ready. And then, just like that, the ground split open. The earth howled, and Margaret felt herself teeter on the edge of an abyss. Would they be swallowed whole by the secrets they were daring to face? As the darkness beckoned beneath them, the crowd screamed and stumbled backward, hearts racing. Would they fall into the truth once and for all, or were they stepping into their doom? Hold on! Someone shouted, grasping onto a neighbor's shirt, the panic escalating. In that moment, the reality of their actions crashed down on Margaret. They had stepped into the unknown, the abyss gaping wide before them, ready to swallow everyone whole. Had they stirred something far worse than their past? Or was this the beginning of their liberation? As she braced herself, thoughts spiraled. Time was unraveling, and the truth loomed like a shadow. Would they emerge on the other side? Or would the whispering night consume them all? The ground shuddered violently, the roar of the chasm echoing in her ears like a dreadful symphony. Margaret stumbled, searching for Billy, her heart pounding mercilessly in her chest. A collective gasp rose from the crowd, fueled by a frantic energy of disbelief. The figure above them surged, its glow flickering uncertainly, radiating a desperate call to action even as the darkness beneath threatened to consume them. Help! Somebody! A voice cried out, but was abruptly cut off as the pit widened with a terrifying intensity. Margaret! Billy's voice pierced through the chaos, almost drowned out by the growing screams. He yanked her arm, pulling her back into the safety of the crowd, but she resisted, anchored to the weight of her choices. We can't run! She shouted, her words propelled by a mix of defiance and resolve. This is our chance. A flicker of doubt crossed Billy's face, now shadowed with fear. Your chance or ours? He struggled to reclaim her attention amidst the frantic movements. Around them, the crowd reeled, teetering on the precipice of hope and despair. In that very instant, a blinding flash erupted from the figure. Time felt suspended, stretching as it filled with brilliant light and chilling darkness all at once. Margaret felt her breath hitch as swirling images cascaded through her mind. Families torn apart, secrets buried in agony, forgotten chaos spilling over, the past clawed its way into the present, demanding acknowledgement. Together, the tall man's voice came again, filled with desperate urgency. Together we can piece it back together. Don't let the fear separate us. A ripple of courage surged through the crowd, but uncertainty lingered like a noxious fog. Faces twisted between hope and apprehension, the shadows flickered around them, threatening to pull them into the abyss. As if in synchronicity, they all stood at the edge, teetering on the brink of revelation. "Margaret!" Billy implored, his fingers tightening painfully around her wrist. "This isn't just about you. What if we lose everyone? What if I can't go back?" She yelled over him, the desperation spilling out unfiltered. "I can't live in the shadows any longer. I need to know." Her words hung in the air, a heavy weight challenging the gathering storm. The figure pulsed again, brighter, keeping the darkness at bay, urging them to take that leap of faith. "Stand with me!" shouted the tall man, his voice raw with determination. "Face the truth of who we are. No one has to face it alone." Echoes of resolve floated around, gathering strength, characters awakening a fervor. Yet uncertainty had a vice-like grip on their hearts. They were poised for truth, but what reality awaited them? Would it be a new beginning or a haunting end? And then, with an otherworldly groan, the abyss beneath them gaped wider. From the darkness emerged tendrils of shadow, reaching upward like fingers of despair. The sounds of the crowd grew chaotic, a blend of terror and fierce adrenaline. "Step forward," the man urged, his eyes locked on Margaret, now the focal point of their collective hope. "Do not let fear extinguish the fire within you. Together, we can conquer the shadows." In that moment, Margaret caught a glimpse of intense connection in the faces surrounding her, the flicker of a shared history, pain refracted through unity. It ignited something primal within, urging her to face the monstrosity of the unknown. A snap echoed, and the very ground seemed to pulse with anticipation, her heart racing in a symphony with the chaos. "Margaret, please!" Billy cried again, his eyes pleading for her to return to safety. As the shadows lunged, she felt the stirrings of a choice. Would she be brave enough to step into the chaos, the very heart of the truth, or would they all be swallowed whole? With a deep breath, she reached for the hands around her, feeling their anxious tremors, just as the light above surged. "Let us do this!" she screamed, heart slamming against her ribcage, and like a match dropped into a sea of gasoline, the crowd surged forward. But just as hope flickered brightly, the chasm seemed to roar back, diving deeper into the unknown, leaving everyone gasping as the world spiraled below, the shadows swirling, ready to drown them in their history. And as they plunged into that abyss together, Margaret couldn't help but wonder what horrors awaited them in the fabric of their past, and would they have the strength to emerge from it, transformed? The chasm engulfed them, a swirling vortex of light and darkness, twisting and turning like a living thing, hungry for their fears. Panic rippled through the crowd as faces blurred in the chaotic descent. Margaret's heart raced. What if this was a mistake? They landed hard, the ground fracturing beneath them, sending up a shower of dust and debris. A collective groan echoed as people scrambled to their feet, brushing off the surreal sensation of falling without ever leaving the ground. The air was thick with uncertainty, and in that moment, doubt coiled tightly around her mind. "Is everyone okay?" Billy's voice broke through the haze, shaky yet resolute. His hands felt steady as they gripped her shoulders, grounding her. Margaret looked around, seeing terrified faces with wide eyes, but strangely, there was also something else: curiosity. The figure was gone, leaving behind an eerie silence that settled like a fog. Shadows clung stubbornly to the walls, whispering secrets only the brave dared to hear. "I think we made it," she said, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. "Made it where?" Billy replied, his brow furrowing. Fear seemed to darken his features, but the flame of determination was there too, flickering just beneath the surface. Before Margaret could respond, a low growl reverberated through the darkness. The ground trembled again, a foreboding reminder of their precarious situation. They weren't out of danger yet. "Everyone, stay close." A voice rang out from the crowd. It was the tall man, scrambling to gather the lost and disoriented. "We need to find a way out. We can't linger here." Margaret felt the urgency in his words. There was a tremor of fear beneath his bravado, a forceful reminder that just because they had taken a leap didn't mean the danger had passed. As they moved cautiously deeper into the cavernous void, the shadows morphed around them, pressing against the flickers of light generated by their terrified presence. Echoes of whispered fears slithered through the air, tugging hard at their memories, dredging up feelings long buried. "Do you hear that?" A woman nearby whispered, her face pale and solemn. "It's like they're alive." "They are," Margaret said quietly, realization dawning. "This is our past. The shadows feed on it." Billy's grip tightened on her hand as the whispers intensified, a cacophony of regret, sorrow, and longing that reached into Elizabeth's core. Memories flashed before her, moments of joy, loss, and heartache mingling into a blur of sensations, pulling at her heartstrings. Margaret's chest tightened. "We have to confront it," she murmured, a strange resolve settling in her bones. "We can't let guilt shackle us. Its hold is stronger than ignorance." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and the crowd froze, a familiar face, yet twisted in anguish. "You came back," it hissed, venom dripping from its tone. It was everything she had tried to escape. "Who are you?" Margaret stammered, stepping back instinctively. "I am you," the shadowy figure replied, eyes glinting with an otherworldly light. "I am the keeper of your truth. Can you accept it?" Panic bubbled within her, rising like a tide she couldn't control. The collective whispers grew louder, and others began to recoil, losing their resolve. But in the trembling heart of chaos, something else ignited inside her. She remembered the light. "We can't be broken by our past," Margaret shouted, summoning every ounce of courage she could find. "We face this together." In that moment, the shadows shimmered, and she knew the truth. The light that had brought them here was still within them, a spark that could ignite fire against the dark. The figure snarled, the shadows swirling like a tempest. "Then face what you truly are." As the darkness surged around them, Margaret felt a flicker of defiance rise, ready to illuminate the path forward. But a new fear clawed at her throat. Would they be strong enough to confront the agony of their truth? And in the thrumming silence, she could almost hear the answer, the growl of the abyss awaiting there. Choice, a reverberating challenge echoing in the depths. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one question remained: could they reclaim their power, or would the shadows consume them whole? The shadows narrowed, coiling around Margaret and the others like a tightening noose. Each quickened breath she took felt like a battle against the oppressive darkness. Billy's fingers intertwined with hers, a lifeline amidst the swirling despair. The figure's eyes glowed, a nightmare taking shape. "You cannot hide from the truth. It was your choices that led you here. Accept it, or be forever lost in the shadows." Margaret's heart pounded fiercely, the weight of the figure's words reverberating through her. She glanced at the frightened faces around her fellow souls, each harboring burdens they'd rather forget. Whispers grew, entwined with the agony of regret and unhealed wounds, each voice begging for recognition. "No!" Margaret shouted, her voice steadying against the cacophony. "We won't let this define us." Billy shifted closer, the resolve in his eyes lending her strength. "Let us stand together," he urged, addressing the crowd. "Whatever it is that haunts us, we face it united." A murmur of agreement fluttered through the air, a fragile flicker against the overwhelming darkness. The tall man stepped forward, his silhouette stark against the shadows. "It's easier to hide. But hiding only prolongs the pain. We'll reclaim who we are." As one, they moved forward, forming a human wall against the tide of darkness. The figure inched closer, its features shifting, morphing into haunting images of their past, each regret, every failure exposed. Margaret felt her chest constrict. The pain was raw and familiar, but now it shimmered with an undeniable clarity. I wish I could take it back. I should have fought harder. A voice unknown but close escaped the shadows. A cry of anguish filled the air when another stepped forward, their countenance softened, remembering a kindness lost. I never said goodbye and now I regret it. Margaret felt the wave of emotions crashing against her fragile walls. Suddenly, her own vulnerability became a catalyst. Every mistake, every lost moment, it's part of who we are. They don't define us. They are battles we survived. In that instant, the darkness pulsed, growing restless. The figure screeched, twisting with rage. How dare you claim power over your own misery? You are nothing. But with each word of defiance, the light within them grew like stars igniting against the night sky. Billy squeezed her hand again, emboldened by her passion. We are more than our shadows. We have the strength to rise above. Margaret's heart surged, the weight of failure lifting just enough to feel hope. Together. We face them together. They joined hands, the warm touch igniting a tide of determination as each person linked into a living, breathing shield of light. The shadows recoiled, and a low growl echoed. The figure twisted and contorted, the agony of Margaret's past manifested before her eyes. You think you can escape? It hissed, tauntingly. You are forever bound to your choices. But Margaret stood tall. Bound? No. These are steps in our journeys. We own every moment. As they pushed against the shadows, they felt a shift. The darkened walls around them trembled, splintering with life. It was as if the very essence of their collective defiance was breaking through. The air crackled with possibility, but a chill swept over them as the figure fell back, merging again into the shadows. This isn't over. You will return to face your true selves. As the darkness began to dissipate, a stark realization washed over the group in unison. This was not merely a battle against the shadows outside but a confrontation with the demons within. With every step they took deeper into the abyss, the question loomed. Would they uncover the truths buried beneath the chaos, or would they falter and be swallowed whole by the very shadows they sought to escape? And just then, from the depths came a sound, a haunting whisper that could shatter even the strongest resolve. You haven't seen the last of me. What awaited them in the expanding shadows? Would they dare to seek the answers, or would the abyss claim them first? The air grew heavy, tension tightening like a vice around them. Margaret's skin prickled with uncertainty as shadows darkened once more, swirling like storm clouds above a cracked earth. The whisper echoed, haunting and relentless, filling her mind with dread. You haven't seen the last of me. Their hands clasped tighter, a bond forged through shared trauma. Billy's jaw clenched, determination igniting his features. We can't let it back in. We need to keep pushing forward. The crowd swayed, torn between fear and hope. They stepped through the remnants of the fading darkness, caution battling courage. Margaret felt the energy shift, pulling at the depths of her soul. Just ahead, a flicker of light danced like a challenge, shimmering in defiance of the shadows that threatened to overtake them. Stay close. She shouted, the words charged with urgency. The light ahead grew brighter, revealing the contours of a lush landscape that felt almost surreal. Verdant grass fluttered softly in an unseen breeze, as ethereal whispers of forgotten laughter echoed throughout the glade. But Margaret knew better than to trust the illusion. It was a trap, a temporary escape showing glimmers of hope that could entice even the most resilient heart. Where are we? Someone murmured, bewildered lips curling in confusion as eyes darted toward the luminous scenery. A resonant voice broke through. You stand at the threshold of your own making. Here, in this realm, your choices manifest. Embrace your truth. What truth? Margaret challenged. What can this place possibly teach us? It holds your answers. The voice coiled like a thread in the air, wrapping around her thoughts. Dive deeper, or risk being lost in the shadows forever. Fear glanced through the crowd, mirrored in the faces of those who felt the weight of uncertainty. Would plunging deeper reveal the horrors they knew, or could this new territory break the cycle of pain? A glimmer sparked in Billy's eyes, a whispered promise of strength. We have to trust ourselves. We can't back down now. The group murmured in agreement, emboldened by his confidence, but the shadows lingered like persistent memories refusing to fade. They began to venture forward, feet moving cautiously as they crossed the threshold into the pulsing heart of the dreamscape. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, rippling energy warning of an impending threat. It's coming. We need to hurry. A figure clad in darkness swirled at the edge of the glade, its eyes gleaming with malicious glee, mocking their effort. Fools! It shrieked, the sound a cacophony that merged with the whispers of pain from their past. You think you can overcome what you are? Margaret's breath hitched, her heart racing against the rising tide of despair. We are not defined by our past. We are stronger than you. With every word shouted into the abyss, silhouettes of regret materialized around them, grotesque and mournful, reminding them of the choices left unmade. Each figure was a mirror reflecting parts of themselves they had wished to forget. The shadow's laughter grated on her soul, clawing for their attention, seeking to drag them back down into the void. Stand together. Billy called again, anchoring their resolve. Wavering fingers grasped each other, forming a united front against the darkness. We face this head-on. A surge of warmth flooded through their clasped hands, rising from the light at the center until it swelled into a blinding force. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the vibrant energy blossoming within their ranks. Now! Margaret cried, summoning every ounce of determination into that one word, and they surged forward, a wave of hope crashing against despair, but the deeper they advanced, the closer the shadows seemed to encroach, as if the confrontation had only begun to awaken the force that bound their souls. The glimmer of light urged them on, but in the back of her mind, Margaret felt an unsettling truth: every answer could come at a terrible cost. As they plunged further into the light, the figures morphed into something more sinister, each holding fragments of secrets that could unravel their resolve. She could feel it, a heartbeat beneath the glade alive and waiting. A staggering question throbbed in the air. Would they find the strength needed to confront their past, or would the shadows unveil secrets they were not prepared to face? The moment lingered like the calm before a storm, and Margaret sensed the shadows gathering, brewing restless malice. Just then, a voice called from the darkness. You think you've escaped? A reckoning awaits. You've only just begun to see. The light surged around them, an emerald brilliance pushing the shadows back, but it wasn't enough. The heartbeat from beneath the glade grew louder, a rhythm that synced with their own hearts, whispering seduction and fear in equal measure. You have only just begun, the voice taunted, echoing in the tight space between them. What lies ahead will demand more than mere courage. Margaret could feel her stomach knot with anxiety. They pressed forward into the heat of the light, but uncertainty hung heavy like thick fog. With each step, the warmth became a suffocating embrace. The bright scenery around them began to warp, twisting like a reflection in a shattered mirror. What do you want from us? Someone shouted, voice quavering, drowning in desperation. One by one, your truths will emerge, the dark figure cackled, gnashing its teeth. This place will lay bare your very essence, and it will devour you if you falter. Billy stood tall, face set with fierce defiance. We won't turn back. We'll face whatever comes. But even as he spoke, the ground beneath their feet pulsed with unease, revealing jagged earth crumbling into nothingness at the edges. The figures began to take shape, grotesque forms that haunted her, the face of a father lost too soon, the reflection of a friend betrayed, and a shadow of a dream crushed under the weight of doubt. Each specter flicked into view, then merged with another, creating a menacing circle that encased them with memories that left burns on their skin. Don't believe the illusion, Margaret urged. Remember who you are. We're more than our pain. They pressed onwards, despite the looming specters. And yet, with every determination-filled step, she felt the intensity of the shadows seep deeper, clawing at their resolve. The cacophony taunted her, every shriek mixed with familiar voices, echoing regrets that she thought she had buried. "Keep moving!" Billy shouted, his voice slicing through their gathering dread. They lunged into the core where the light burned brightest, ready to fight for any shred of hope that lingered. But in that very instant, the ground trembled violently, splitting open beneath them. A chasm yawned wide, a dark void that promised them only despair, each breath thudding with fear. From it emerged a figure, teeth gleaming, eyes like pitch. It wore the shape of Margaret's darkest secret. A twisted amalgamation of guilt and fear. "You cannot escape your true self." It lunged towards her. "No!" Margaret screamed, startled hands reaching to shield her heart. But what could she defend against? This was not just a shadow, it was the essence of her failures come to life. In her fight against the spirit of her past, she felt a surge of heat in her core, igniting a flicker of defiance. "I am not what you claim. I am not defined by my failures." The light behind her seemed to pulse in agreement, sparking joy against the malevolent force closing in. The shadows around the perimeter recoiled, as if struck by an unseen force, momentarily faltering, but this didn't last long. "You can scream all you want, child, but the truth will find you." The figure hissed, its voice dripping with malice, a sound that drowned out her thoughts. As the shadow moved toward her again, she summoned everything. Every ounce of pain, every shred of hope, and the defiance of everyone standing beside her crystallized into a desperate attack. Together, she rallied, eyes darting around the group. The others found their strength as well, unity forming a protective barrier. They roared back, voices shaking the very fabric of the glade. And as they pushed forward, Margaret felt the grip of the past loosening, the darkness revealing cracks. But just as victory seemed close, a sudden flash of white light erupted, unveiling a hidden path through the chaos. A realization washed over her. This new path, forged in collective will, promised freedom, but at an undisclosed cost. "Follow me!" Margaret shouted, adrenaline fueling her steps as she jumped toward the light, but as they moved forward, something snapped in the air, a shudder that foretold dire consequences. The ground might open beneath them again, and that would be their last step or their salvation. Would they charge into that blinding unknown or be swallowed by the shadows they fought so hard against? No going back now. The voice from the darkness boomed, and the shadows rallied, a storm ready to strike. As they hurtled towards the light, Margaret understood they were racing against more than just darkness. They were running towards an inevitable truth that could shatter them all. And in that moment of pause, a chilling whisper floated through the air once more. "Your reckoning is near, and it's already begun." The world twisted around Margaret as they barreled toward the blinding light. The shadows shrieked behind them, angry wails clawing at their resolve. She could feel the ground tremble beneath her feet, as if it were alive, determined to reclaim them. But they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. "Hold on." Billy's voice rang out, anchoring her in the midst of chaos. They surged forward together, hands clutching one another, a web of unity that pushed against the darkness behind them. "Together!" shouted the tall man. The words invigorated them, binding their spirits to a single purpose: to embrace the truth and reclaim their lives. The light ahead shimmered like something sacred, pulling them closer with an almost magnetic force. "We can do this!" she gasped, feeling the warmth radiate from the core of their shared hope. But the shadows were relentless. They lunged, trying to snatch at limbs and hearts alike. Margaret could feel the cold breath of despair as whispers taunted her, echoing regrets masquerading as thoughts. "You should have turned back," they hissed, slithering around her mind like serpents. "No!" she shouted back, her voice ringing with defiance. "This is our moment." Billy squeezed her hand tighter. "Don't listen to them. We're stronger than this." And she believed him. The light pulsed ahead, beckoning them like a lighthouse guiding lost ships. It was brighter now, and with each step toward freedom, the shadows began to recede, howling in defeat. Faces emerged from the darkness, twisted and contorted, but she couldn't look away. Each figure represented a piece of her past, painful echoes of choices and regrets, but also moments of loss and love. And in the heart of that light lay the path to understanding. "Embrace your truth," came the resonant voice again, but this time it felt warm instead of menacing. It was an invitation, a challenge to peel back the layers that weighed down their hearts. Another step. The light enveloped them, washing over like a gentle tide, calming the chaos that had once consumed them. "Here is where we choose," the voice continued. "To accept what we've been, to understand, and to forgive." "But what if it hurts?" someone whispered fearfully from behind. "The truth may cut deep," said the tall man, eyes fierce with conviction. "But it will heal, if we let it." A collective inhale surged through the group, a ripple of courage. "Step inside," the voice urged, now softer, more inviting. "Step inside and face what you hold." Margaret nodded, her breath steadying. "We can do this. For every part of our past." With that, they surged into the heart of the light as a united front. Every crack of darkness, every shadow that had once haunted them, evaporated in the brilliance of revelation. The air shimmered around them, and the painful figures hovering on the edges began to dissolve. And beneath the surface of that light, Margaret found herself, the mistakes and regrets, the laughter and joys, all interwoven. The realization washed over her like rain on parched earth. "This is who I am," she proclaimed, unafraid now. "All of it. Every moment before this has shaped me, but it does not define me." "Yes," Billy shouted, the spark of inspiration crackling in his voice. "We can break free." Around them, the shadows wailed in protest, but they were nothing more than echoes now, fading into the distance. Each member of the crowd began to vocalize their own truths, moments of struggle met with declarations of strength. "I forgive myself. I accept my past. I am not afraid." With each shared truth, the light blossomed brighter, surrounded by a warmth that enveloped them like a blanket. And murmurings of acceptance coalesced into a palpable force, lifting them higher. A final surge pushed them through the light, and they felt their feet touch solid ground again, but this time they were ready. The shadows diminished behind them, retreating into whispers as they settled in the warm embrace of understanding. Margaret looked around, heart soaring. Every face gleamed with a newfound light, an unshakable conviction that lay beneath their scars. They had faced down their darkest selves and emerged whole, and that, she realized, was just the beginning. "We did it," she whispered, tears pooling as she could only smile at the wonder surrounding her. But then, a knowing smile spread across the tall man's face. "This is not the end, but the start of something beautiful." With those words, Margaret felt the weight of the world shift. They were ready for whatever came next, not just as individuals but as a community. With their pasts acknowledged, they could forge ahead in strength and unity, and they would do so with open hearts. As they walked together into the light of a new day, Margaret turned to the group, an exhilarating rush coursing through her. "Together, we will face anything." It was more than just a promise. It was a conviction, a new dawn born from their shared truths. And as they vanished into the brightness, the shadows faded, leaving behind only the soft melody of hope. Don't wait. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel and never miss another exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the adventure alive. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the conclusion. We need to hear from you. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative ending. Your support means the world, and only true fans understand the importance of this.